Right, well, good evening, everybody. I do hope you can all hear me okay, and thank you ever so much for joining tonight's virtual forum, Fish Eating Bird License Returns with Natural England. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Alex. I've been involved in organising fisheries forums for the Angling Trust for the last 6 years now, both in person and online, like this one tonight. Um, so obviously, I can see everybody who's joined. There are quite a few familiar names on there, but some that aren't. So again, just for the benefit of people that haven't been along before, what we're going to have is a series of presentations and talks from our guests tonight from Natural England, who I will introduce shortly, followed by an open Q&A session where we can address any questions or comments that you might have about what you see. The presentation portions themselves are going to be recorded, so you'll be able to circulate that with any of your club contacts or fishing colleagues that you think will benefit from seeing it. And we'll also produce a written version of that Q&A as well, which will accompany the presentation recording. Also, a very short survey at the end for you to complete. Just takes a couple of minutes, just helps us let us know what you thought of the meeting, what you liked about it, what you do differently, what topics you'd like to see in future. Um, and really that's about it. So obviously to ask a question, there is a Q&A function built into Zoom. So depending on the device that you're logging on from tonight, that'll either be at the bottom of your screen, usually for desktops and laptops, or at the top of your screen. And it's simply just a case of hitting that, typing in what you'd like to ask, and then that will be fed on to us. Now, before we do go any further, I'd just like to emphasise the fact that this is a meeting specific to license returns for individual license holders, not area-based licenses. So I'd ask everybody to please stay on topic. We won't be addressing anything beyond the topic at hand. So for anything else cormorant related, fish eating birds, if you have problems with them on your club or fishery and would like assistance, you can contact either one of our fishery management advisors, Richard Banforth or Jake Devoyle, whose details are on the website. But obviously, if you'd like to reach out to them and can't find that, then you can just get straight in touch with me and I will pass it on to you. So I think that about covers everything. So what I'll do is I will introduce our guests tonight from Natural England. We've got Matt Cox and Rebecca Winter. So apologies, you'll probably see two Matt Coxes on your screen. There is, I assure you, there is only one Matt with us tonight. Unfortunately, we've had a slight technical hitch, so Rebecca is being listed as Matt, but the one with the screen on is Matt, and the one without is going to be Rebecca. So I'll pass over to you, Matt and Rebecca, if you guys want to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Winter. I'm the operations manager for Natural England's Wildlife Licensing Service.
Hello, I'm Matt Cox, and I'm one of the team leaders within the delivery team, and I kind of oversee the bird licensing side of things at the moment.
Thank you very much, guys. So I think what I'll do is I'll just pass the floor straight over to you. So I don't know if you one of you wants to pull up your slides first, so we can start working our way through them. But let's say if anybody watching, if you do have any questions for Matt and Rebecca on topic, please do stick them in the Q&A box.
Okay, so that should now be showing. Alex, is that correct?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, thank you, Matt. So I'm just going to give you a very brief introduction to Natural England's Wildlife Licensing Service, which is otherwise known as NEWLS. So I could have the next slide, please, Matt. As I said, my name is Rebecca Winter, and I'm the operations manager within NEWLS, and my team are the delivery teams. And there's also my colleague, Matt Cox, who is team leader for the NEWLS delivery team, and he specifically works for the green team and is also the bird cohort lead. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of information around the team structure. So the delivery teams are basically made up of 3 teams. So we've got Delivery Team Central, who complete the admin tasks. They undertake the desk-based compliance, and they also do low-risk licenses. So they'd be the people that you might send your return into, or you might get in touch with them for a query, etc. And just to give you an idea of numbers as well that we've got in the team, the current delivery FTE, which is full-time equivalent, is 48.18 within central team. So those are the people who are actually delivering, not any of the leadership team. Then within delivery teams, which is my team, we actually complete the assessments on the majority of medium to high risk licenses. We also provide advice through Natural England's Discretionary Advice Service, otherwise known as DAS, and the Pre-Submission Screening Service, otherwise known as PSS. And we also undertake site-based visits and do compliance. That can also be desk-based and site-based. Our current FTE is 34.63. And then we've also got our colleagues in species team, who comprise of senior advisors and principal advisors. They work on the high-risk projects. They also work with a lot of our big stakeholders. They also work on some of the high-level DAS PSS that we do, and they also provide the training and support to the other two delivery teams, so DTC and DT staff. And their current FTE is 13.41. So kind of the full-time equivalent for the whole of Newell's is 96.22 at present. So have the next slide, please, Matt. So just to give you a bit of an overview of the delivery teams, we're split into 5 delivery teams. So we've got the purple team, which covers sort of the north and the northeast. And we've got orange team, which is kind of West Midlands and the northwest. The green team, which is East Midlands. Yellow team, which is southwest, and the blue team, which is southeast. So not all of our licenses necessarily go to staff who are based geographically. Sometimes they can be with different people for different areas, but that's our basic geographic locations. So next slide, please, Matt. So just to take you through the different license types that we do. So we deal with general licenses. So if you don't know, those are basic licenses which have a specific purpose under the legislation. They don't generally need to be applied for or generally reported on. So they're quite a straightforward license, but very specific. The class license, that requires a registration and for applicants to meet a certain criteria. And they generally require an annual reporting. And then individual licenses, which obviously piscivorous birds fall under, they are actually a little bit different in that they are applied for and they must meet the licensing tests for an application purpose. They also require annual and or interim reporting. So interim reporting generally is for EPS. And then we've got strategic licenses, which relate to project licenses. They can be quite large scale projects that we get involved in. We also have organisational licenses, so that can be people like the Environment Agency. Natural England has one for its own staff as well, and then you can also have organisational licenses for RS, PCA, etc. And then we've got district level licensing, which if you're not familiar with, that relates generally to great crested newts. And that is kind of licensing on a landscape scale, so quite different from the sort of individual licenses that you might be used to. And all of those require reporting. So next slide, please. So just to talk you through some of the legislation that we assess our licenses under, we obviously look at the Wildlife and Countryside Act, for which obviously PSCI licenses come under. And then we've got the Conservation of Habitats and Species Regulation, which is also known as the HABS regs. That covers all of the EPS species. We've also got the Protection of Badgers Act and the Deer Act. There are others, but those are the big 4 that we tend to make licensing decisions under. Next slide, please. So just to give you a bit of an idea of the different species that we cover. So we've got quite a few EPS that you can see there. So the dormouse, great crested newts, bats, otter, etc. And then we've got amphibians and reptiles, bats. We do cover badger, but we only cover damage, development, agricultural and archaeological. Then we've got the birds, which obviously Pisky fall under, but also a range of other birds there, geese, and get involved in hen harrier projects and things like that, gulls and any other species of bird that you can possibly think of. And then we've got a lot of deer that come into it as well, and then water vole, which is, you know, quite new to licensing as well. And then we've got the beaver licenses. Then we've got our invasive alien species, which can be for kind of mink, that sort of thing, that we deal with as well. And then we get a lot of licenses for science and conservation purpose. So that includes all of the European protected species, but also just birds, badgers, a wide range of plants, a lot of marine species, and a lot of other mammals as well. So we do quite a range of different species. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the volume of license, just to give you a bit of an idea of how many licenses we actually deal with per year. So we get approximately 15,000 license applications, renewals, requests for modifications to existing licenses, and application resubmissions per year. So it's quite a lot of licenses for the sort of FTE that I've indicated. And also every one of these requires interaction from either one member of staff or from multiple team members before we can actually issue a decision. We also get peaks in our licensing, which generally occur from spring until autumn. So which, as you can imagine, a lot of them actually collide with each other. So we do have a lot of competing resource demands as well. But just to give you an idea of the range of stuff that we do, all NEWL staff kind of work on multiple species as well. Jumped ahead there, Matt. If you can go to that one, that's it. Brilliant, thank you. So just to give you an idea of how we're kind of managing our resource at the moment. So we've obviously had a bit of an intake of new staff in the last 18 months. So we've got a few more people to play with, and we've had a really good think about how we can manage that resource going forward. So we've adopted a cohort approach for our staff resource. So you can see there, these are the main cohorts that we have. So for EPS again, so the GCN, the bats, the dormouse, which I've put in twice, I've just noticed that, sorry. Aquatic mammals, deer and badgers and birds. That should have been birds, not dormouse twice, sorry. So if you can go to the next slide, please, Matt. Okay, so just to give you a bit of an idea of how we think this cohort approach is going to be an improvement on how we've worked going forward, we're going to start providing a kind of ring-fence staff resource during peak periods for specific species. So for instance, birds will get a certain allocation of staff, badgers will get another allocation of staff, etc. So that will just give those people that are managing those cohorts the opportunity to kind of be able to give work to those specific people and know that they're just going to be working on that. We also think it'll enable staff to concentrate on one species during peaks, and it will also give them an opportunity to improve their knowledge and experience on that species as well. And we're also looking at ensuring that peak periods are managed better through this approach as well. So that was a little bit of a whistle-stop tour of what we do in NEWLs. But if you've any questions, that'll be fine if you can put them in the chat. But I will now pass you over to my colleague, Matt, who's going to talk you through the returns process. Matt.
Okay, so hopefully I've just seamlessly, hopefully switched PowerPoints there, so that should be now on the screen. So I'm just going to do a very quick run through of the returns process and a bit about the actual bird cohort itself, the people that interact with your license applications. And then what I'm then going to do is stop the presentation at the end, and then I'm going to go on to the online return system, the Qualtrics form, and just do kind of a little bit of a run through of that. There's been some changes since last year, which should hopefully make the user experience better. And just give you a kind of few key pointers on this one. So a little bit about the numbers first of all. So for the bird cohort, the piscivorous licensing is a large part of our work. This year, for the 23-24 season, we've received a total of 541 applications. That's kind of broke down into 74 new applications and 467 renewals. So we start receiving returns from existing customers in April, and then aim to kind of issue all the licenses around September time. So a little bit about the numbers. Rebecca mentioned the different teams earlier, and how different teams pick up different applications. So the team that I'm in pick up any applications that are deemed medium or high risk. So we've got a teamlet of 12 wildlife advisors, and birds will be one of 2 or 3 species that they work with. So over the peak period of the assessments, the staff will primarily work just on piscivorous bird licensing. However, they do have to balance some other licensable work with this. So these would be other kind of high risk applications, but around this point, they might get put a small bit of time, might get pulled away to work on major infrastructure projects or urgent public health and safety applications with the likes of Network Rail and other stakeholders like that. So it's all a bit of a balance, but over the peak kind of piscivorous licensing period, each wildlife advisor will have around 12 to 16 applications with them at any given time, and that will just keep kind of cycling through until we're through those licenses. So this year, the split between the teams, so medium high risk applications, there was 337 of those this year. So we deem any application that triggers a protected sites consultation. So if you're near a designated site, such as a SSSI or a special protected area, an SPA, any applications that request an increase, and any that have selected no to one of the questions on the Qualtrics or returns, which is one of the licensing tests. And I'll go through that in a minute when we go through Qualtrics, what those questions are. So the medium to high risk applications, they usually will involve a conversation with the applicant as well. And these can, from the moment that the returns are received through to issue, it's about 6 to 8 hours of assessment time. So that will sit with one of the team for that sort of time, who will actively be working on it. The lower risk applications, this year there was 204, and the time is around half. So these take between 2 and 4 hours from received, going all through the system until those licenses are issued. So lower risk ones are if there's no protected sites considerations, if all the licensing tests are met, and essentially it's a reissue of the license as it is. Apologies. So license periods and returns. So we're coming up to that returns period now. So just a quick kind of overview of the periods there and the returns. So the returns due date marks the start of the period that we start working with these licenses again. So they arrive back in with our delivery team central at this point, and they start being processed. So that's getting them onto the system, logging all of the returns and actions from last year, desk-based compliance on all of those, just to check through them, check everything's correct. This is a really kind of important part for us to make sure that we're set up for the next season really well. So as you've seen from Rebecca's slides, we do have peaks right across the summer with other species. So the earlier these returns are received within yours, the earlier we can begin the processing and assessment. So although you might not kind of know it, certain cases are linked ecologically. So we can only issue a certain amount of cormorants across the whole license kind of type, and then locally across some of these protected sites, especially the special protected areas, the SPAs, there's only a certain amount of cormorants that we can actually issue on these licenses, as they're often protected features of these sites. So we need a complete evidence picture to do this effectively. So the earlier that these can get in, it helps us with our assessments. And then it is also a condition of the license to send your returns in a prompt manner. I believe it's 14 days after your license ends. So on each of your licenses when you're issued, there's approximately 18 conditions, depending on a few bits. And then a series of notes then below it. So the notes are all advisory. However, the conditions are part of the legal binding documents. So when you receive your license, do take special kind of note of them, take a bit of time, read them, and just make sure that you know those conditions really well, so that when you're working under your license, that you're happy that you're operating within the legislation. So a little bit about postal returns. So the part of the reason we kind of come on here tonight is to show you the online returns process. So for this season, just gone, we still received 1/5 of all applications by post. So just over 100 applications. Now, for us, that does present some challenges. So we're a national team. Our staff spread all over the country, based in various different offices with different working patterns, and kind of over the last few years a real change into hybrid working. So the postal address is the Bristol office. We still have employees that work on birds in the Bristol office. However, there is only a limited number of these. So we're relying on these employees to be in the office kind of regularly, and when a postal application comes in, they need to collect it, scan it all in, log it on the computer, which takes time, and it takes more time than the Qualtrics form, which once that's completed and sent through, that's just on our system straight away. So there's no processing time. So it reduces that processing time by between kind of 30 and 45 minutes for every application. So that's why it's a real help for us if people can move to this Qualtrics system. And then additionally, it does link with our systems. So we've got to record all of our decisions, record all of our evidence base, and Qualtrics it links with our system. So it cuts down that processing time even more for us. So it helps us then be more prepared for the actual assessment side of the licensing. Okay, so a little bit about the process here. So a very simple flow chart here, but before the season even starts, so now significant work is put into place, and that's completed in conjunction with our ornithologists in our kind of strategy and government team and chief scientific directorate team, and this is a collaborative process across the whole of natural England, not just Newells, and then that's all done ahead of time to make sure that everything all the legislation is still kind of correct, and we're acting upon it in all the right ways. And that's done ahead of the season. And then we come to now, which is March and April. So the current licensing season comes to its end, and applicants have 14 days to a month to submit their return of actions. And that's detailing the action that you took under the license. But new applications are received all year round. So we kind of will move them towards the right season as a new application comes in. So once they're received, they're logged, processed by a small team of advisors in Delivery Team Central. So they go through the Qualtrics forms, and they do a really good job of triaging all of those, carrying out protected sites checks to see which fisheries are near protected sites, and they fill out all the details from the previous year, complete all the checks on all the return licenses. So then any that are then deemed medium or high risk, so as I went through a minute ago, will come to the delivery team, which is the team I work in, and they'll come to our wildlife advisors. So these assessments, again, mix of new applications and applications that have an impact on protected sites and any other kind of higher risk triggers. So small team carry out these assessments and aim to deliver them as soon as possible. One of the things that I've mentioned is the protected sites part. So at this point, we go out to colleagues in the wider Natural England. So our area teams, now these are the people that work kind of geographically on the ground, and they are responsible for those protected sites. So that's their job. So when it comes in, we have, if any trigger these protected sites, we have to go and consult with the wider Natural England and check that they're happy for us to issue the license. And they look at numbers of, if cormorants are a protected species on that site, they'll look at the local population data and kind of come up and talk to us about the numbers that are that we'd like to control and what's happening on site. So they give us that valuable kind of site information, and that also enables us to carry out our regulatory duty, which is to carry out habitat regulation assessments, which are required by law for any license that we work on by these protected sites. Once we're done with them, they go back to our delivery team central, who do the issuing. So they're the ones that will email your license or post your license out to you. And they log all the assessment, all the evidence, and send out the licenses to yourselves, at which point you receive them and you can begin to take action under that license in line with the conditions. So just my last slide here. So we have to, under the legislation, work to 5 key principles. So we have to evidence these 5 key principles for every single license application that we do under the Wildlife and Countryside Act. So there are differences in how these principles are set out in each law, but we use these principles based on the Berne Convention and the EU directives, and these are standard across wildlife licensing. So it's our legal requirement. Every piscivorous bird license we issue meets the above principles. So as an evidence-based organisation, we need to provide up-to-date evidence that meets all of these principles for each license application. So this is where the returns process becomes really important for us, because the report of action that you complete and send back to us, any shooting logs that you attach and send back to us, scaring logs, and any other additional evidence such as photos of damage, stocking, any of your stocking regime, anything like that, how you're trying to scare the cormorants away from the site. That's all information that we can use to meet these five key principles. So the more information you give us, the easier it is for us to meet these principles and to complete our role in getting these licenses out. Okay, so I'm going to just stop sharing and then move to the Qualtrics screen. So give me 1 second. Okay, so just quickly, Alex, just to check before I start cracking on through this one, but am I sharing the gov.uk website?
Yep, that's the one.
Brilliant. Okay, so the Qualtrics form, or the return of action online form, is found on the gov.uk website. So just www.gov.uk, and you'll come up with this big search bar. You can get this off your phone as well. And if you put AO6 or AO7 into this search bar, so that's the type of license, this first result that comes up here is the one you want to click through to. So license for an individual to protect your fishery from fish-eating birds. And you'll come up with this screen here, which also tells you how to apply if you're a fishery on here that hasn't got a license and it's something that you're looking into. Like Alex said earlier, have a chat with Richard, have a chat with Jake, and then this is the route you take. So you've got the application here for the AO6. So AO6 is your cormorants, AO7 is other fish-eating birds. And then this form here, report your actions under this license. The LR06 is your online way to report here. So I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough of this and just come up with just show some key kind of areas. put these through. The only thing is you can't go through some pages without some data, so I will have to populate some of the fields. So one of the most kind of important bits highlighted here is if you get this wrong, if you accidentally submit some information that is incorrect at the end, that's not a problem. This email address here, which just highlighted, I'm not sure if you can see the highlight, but wildlife@naturalengland.org.uk. If you submit and that for any reason you go a week later, you realize you've done something wrong, if you email that address and put your license reference down and let us know what the issue was, we'll be able to kind of correct that or log it under your under the license files. So we'll come through to here. So one of the things that has changed with the form this year is that you're now able to cycle through and go back a lot easier than previously. So when we go through to the main pages, there's the free blue bar icon, and that will get you back to this page and enable you to go back and edit any work that you any work that you want to go and revisit and double check before going further. So on to the first page. So one thing that's really important with this is anyone can fill this in on your behalf as long as they are the license holder or one of the authorized individuals. However, you can get help from anybody, but this first page here does need to have the license holder's name on it, but anybody can fill it in on your behalf. But this first part links to your license, so it needs to be the name of the license holder. So if we put through quickly here, should go through to the next page. No, I've got to do a valid number. Okay, so that should now go through. So this page here, license reference number here. If you hold more than one license, so if you've got a cormorant license and you've got a goosander license, you will need to go through this twice for both licenses. You'll have two unique license numbers, but it does mean you have to go through it twice to do that. If you have and Alex mentioned this at the start, if you're operating under a what we call a PAL, a piscivorous area license, this isn't the way you do your returns. They're collected as kind of part of a group collection. So this is for individual license holders only. So a license number will have to go into here. So I'm just going to put a random one in. I don't think it's anyone's number. So bird that you controlled, and that comes through here. So did you take any action under your license? So this is, did you take a bird under your license this year? So is that a simple yes or no? If it's a no, that's fine, and you submit a nil return for the year. There's lots of valid reasons for not using your license over a year. Your scaring might have been really effective. Perfect. Didn't have to use it. No, you might be a small fishery and your bailiff was ill for the year, not able to take action under license. That's absolutely fine. Pop it in there, and you can submit that as a nil return and pop a little bit of information in there. The majority of people do take action under their license, so they'll come through on the yes. Now this bit here is really important that these details are correct. So double check the dates after you put them in. Double check them against your local records, double check them against your license. So if I put just an example in here, so we'll go for 1st of October. Cormorant, and your grid reference. So this is where the action took place. So especially important if you have a license that bands multiple fisheries, that you get the grid reference here correct for the multiple lakes. It's especially correct here that you use the correct grid reference for the lake that was shot on. So you might have lower lake and upper lake, so pop that information here as well. Individuals taken, that's the number that was shot, and one of the conditions is that you should the multiple cormorants need to be present, as the license purpose for the majority of them that we issue is shooting to reinforce scaring. So there should be other cormorants present when you take action. So this number here, number of individuals cited, when you record your action, you need to take note of how many. So let's say there was a small flock of 6. That's what you would take there. So you took 1 bird, six present. Then go through, and like I said, this is the point. Just double check these now at this point here. Okay. One of the things that we find most often is that the year is wrong. So people potentially, obviously I've done it wrong straight away. I've put it in the future, so that should be 2023. So that's one of the things there that are really important just to double check, because that does get flagged up on our system, and we've then got kind of go in and spend a bit of time investigating it, often with a phone call, to see what's happening there. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that we have four licensing tests and questions that are directly look at these. So we're going to go into those shortly. So 2 questions here. Actions taken under the license. So did you meet the conditions of your license? So did you shoot within the license period? Anything like that. So this should be a yes. So we collect yes on here. However, if there was a mistake made at any point, this is the time to kind of say, so pop a no here, explain what happened, and that again is really helpful for us, rather than kind of finding it later down in the process. It might be that there was a mix-up with your bailiffs and you took 1 extra bird in your monthly allowance, and at that point it's much better for you to just let us know, and we can log it and look at it ahead of time then. So both of these should usually be a yes. And now these are the licensing questions. So there was a little bit of confusion over this one last year, with a lot of people selecting no. So this first one: has the action you took under license helped to reduce the scale or impact of the problem? So what we're essentially saying here is, if you didn't have a license, would the the damage to your fishery be worse? So in most instances, we would hope that by having a license, that it's gone some way to reducing the impact. So for most people, again, this would be yes. However, if the problem is continuing to get worse, this would be the one you would select and kind of look to justify an increase of birds. So you'd need to provide additional evidence. So this could be your scaring logs, your sighting logs, more evidence of damage, what you're having to do to stock. So if you're kind of wanting to renew a license as previously, yes is the correct one to tick up on here. And again, if you didn't take action, it would be this below box here. Oh, sorry, I didn't answer that one. So additional evidence. So I kind of mentioned this a minute ago about how we need this to meet our licensing tests. Most of the licenses now have a condition to keep scaring logs or shooting logs. So this is the best way for us to log these. So if on this bit here, you've got 3 areas to drop files. So this can be a simple picture of your club scaring log. So if it's done in your clubhouse on a bit of paper, that's fine. Take a photo of it, as long as it's got the action, what sort of scaring you did, how often it's happening. It can be a photo, that's absolutely fine, and they can be saved and dropped into here. Again, photos of damage, any of those can come into here. So I do kind of, if possible, like use these. This is the easiest place for you to put that evidence, and it comes straight through to us and is logged on our system straight away then. So renewing your license, again, this is one of the licensing questions. So again, for the majority of you, renew your licenses previously issued is the answer that most of you will give here. If there are changes, so it might be that you want to add some new authorized individuals that are going to be carrying out the action on the site. It might be the license holders changing. You might want to add a new pond that or new lake that you've kind of added to your site, or that's now being predated on that wasn't previously. That would be this middle one here. So do click that, and it will give you the option to tell to kind of let us know about those changes. And if for any reason you don't wish to apply to renew your license anymore, that option is at the bottom as well. Sorry, I'll go for that one. So justification for renewing your license. So is cormorants, our cormorants, our gooseanders, whatever species it is that are causing the problem, are they still there? Are they still causing damage? And are you still using non-lethal methods and they are not completely resolving the problem? So again, majority of cases, this one should be a yes. If it is the below one, if no, the species isn't there, they're not causing damage, and the license has been effective and the non-lethals are being effective, you would select this bottom one here, and then there would be kind of there would be no need to have a license going forward because the birds aren't there and they're not causing a problem. So this one, as long as you want to renew your license, you're looking to do this top selection here. And is the bird you want to control still present at the site, or is it likely to return next season when the weather starts getting colder again? Again, this, for the majority of you, this will be a yes. And then the kind of finishes off with our standard questions. These are on every single license that we issue, every application form. So have you got a conviction or a wildlife offence, or anyone on the license in the last 5 years? So select whichever one is required there. So I'll go with no. And one which is quite key for any of you that rent land. So where required, you undertake to obtain permission from landowners to exercise any license resulting from this application. So if you rent land off of anyone, or are allowed to use someone else's land, please do make sure you've got permission to carry out the licensable activities on that site. So that one would require ticking just to make sure that you've done that. And then this one here, you agree to the declaration that the license return information is correct. So that's that double checking part. Just make sure that you've had a look through and all the information that you've given there is correct. Now, this one here is a kind of slight change. Now, this can be completed by anyone on the license. So anyone named on that license, or as the license holder, or the authorized individuals. So some people have kind of 3 or 4 bailiffs that are authorized on the license. It might be that you want to have someone that is slightly more office-based also named on the license, so that they can complete this form on your behalf. But they do need to be named on the license. So I'll just pop my own name into that one to submit. And the reason that is that it's them that's declaring that the license return information is correct. So if they're not named on the license, then that license is the license return is no longer legally robust if it's someone completely different, not named on the license, doing those returns. So click through. You can go back through at this stage to check that you've completed each section. So it's all ticked there. But if you want to double check anything, now's a really good time to do so. And then you submit, and you get two kind of confirmations. So this is your first one here. So your response has been recorded and you get the ability to download the PDF. So that PDF will have all of the information that you put on there. So you've got a copy of that, and you also will receive an email with that PDF on as well, confirming your response. And that is then it and in our system, and ready to be processed. So we don't get around to processing those straight away. We wait until we kind of got all until the season for cormorants, goosanders, grey herons, and smolt, any extensions for smolt runs are over, and then we begin to process it, which would be in about a month and a half's time. So yeah, hopefully that was kind of a useful go through of the Qualtrics form, and yeah, we're happy now to do a Q&A on the returns process. Hopefully we'll be able to kind of answer any questions on that process, but if not, more than happy to take those questions away to some of the team that work directly on the returns, and share those answers with you, however kind of Alex feels best. But yeah, thank you very much. I'll stop sharing.
Right, well, thank you very much, Matt and Rebecca. That was extremely useful. I'm sure I speak for everybody on the call in saying that. And as mentioned, we've got a few questions in already. If anybody does have anything they'd like to ask, then please fire them in. So I'm just going to kick off. I guess this one isn't directly related to the license returns, but you know, if you want to comment or just give a sort of overall flavour on any of this, Matt or Rebecca, I'm sure it'd be appreciated. So John from Blackford's Progressive Angling Society has put a few comments in. So John says, seems to be a resident population of cormorants, small at the moment, which remain and predate our fisheries over the summer period. Are we unlucky, or is this a trend which other fisheries are experiencing? And John goes on to say that from his experience, there seems to have been a shift in migration periods where cormorants arrive later but stay longer. Is this something that Natural England should consider with regards to adjusting or extending license periods? And John also comments about the possibility of an inland breeding population of cormorants that might follow the pattern and growing population of seagulls that now live permanently on our fisheries and municipal landfill sites but never visit the coast. I don't know if any thoughts on that, either of you?
So it's kind of a little bit off the returns process, and probably one for kind of our chief scientist, scientific directorate team. I just kind of give John just some like a very from what we're seeing, that there's not as many fisheries are really pushing that in September, that they're not using their license as much. It's from October onwards that we're seeing most of the action taking place. Now that's entirely taken from me just looking at people's returns. That's not based on kind of any evidence. That's just, I see a lot of the returns from the clubs. So we are seeing, yeah, people not taking much action in September, but there's probably a difference between just even the north and south of the country, I imagine, with that.
We're quite happy to take that question. I've actually copied that question, and I will pass that on to the correct person and see if we can get a response and come back to you.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. No, thank you for that, guys. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll just add that into the Q&A afterwards then, so we can stick that one in there. So thank you both. Right, so moving on. So Dave Cox says, our club has taken its quota of 4 cormorants for the current period, sent off a return covering that period and requested an extension. How long is it before we get a reply? Bearing in mind the cormorants are still coming and we can only shoot to scare, and the license expires mid-April.
So we've got a kind of standard 30 working day deadline for every single license that we issue across the board. So I'm happy to kind of probably maybe grab some details offline and see if we received it. That there is a certain point where we stop taking applications for the current season due to the 30 working day deadline pushing on beyond the licensing period, and therefore we wouldn't actually be able to get the application to a wildlife advisor and out before the end of the season. I'm happy to kind of have a little look and see if we've received that one. If you want, Alex, if there's any way of grabbing the fishery name later off of Dave.
Yeah, for sure. No, thanks for that, Matt. So yeah, Dave, if you want to just pass on your details to me, I'll share them with Matt and the guys, and they can look into that one for you. So thank you. I guess this might be quite a sort of simple answer. Is the long-term aim to move away from individual to area licensing?
It's a good question.
Or maybe not so simple.
It's something that we're still looking at. It's not a simple question. It's something that we're looking at. That there is some definite advantages to kind of coordinated counts, coordinated scaring, especially across kind of river systems. But yeah, again, that would be kind of our sat above us, like at a strategy level. That I know they do review these sorts of things. I think the area licenses are about 6-7 years old now. That definitely before I started. But yeah, so not a simple answer, I'm afraid, with that one.
That's fair enough. No worries at all. Thank you, Matt. Right, so next one's from Stephen. So Stephen says, is it possible to partially complete the license renewal and save until ready to submit?
Not currently, no. That isn't available. It's got to be done kind of in one sitting.
I'm with you. Do you think that's something that's likely to change in future, or
not this season?
Right.
But I definitely what I can definitely do is kind of go out to our team that work on that side of things and see if it's something that is possible.
Yeah, super stuff. No, thank you, Matt. Right. Okay, so one from Colin, and again, this may be one that we can defer into the sort of written version if you wanted to sort of chat with your colleagues. But with the Atlantic salmon now being listed on the IUCN Red List for endangered species, will the attitude to control of piscivorous birds be changing?
Again, not really one that sits within our actual delivery team. That this would be something for our kind of chief scientific directorate. And or kind of area teams, people kind of that are on site. But I wouldn't be able to comment on that one, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. No, thank you. I can see Dave has just come back as well with his license number and the name of the angling club, so I'll share that with you, Matt, afterwards. I don't know if you can see it there. So thank you very much for that, Dave. I won't make that one public, so don't worry. Right, which pretty much brings us to the end, which I guess is probably evidence of a very comprehensive and useful talk. So thank you very much, Matt and Rebecca. If anybody does have any sort of further questions about the licensing regime, then please do fire them across. There are a few others that I can see floating around in there, which will follow up outside of the meeting. But as I say, if there are any others, may have just had a couple more come through.
Is the
One from Alan?
Yeah, okay.
Sorry,
just reading the information, Alan.
So Alan is a small 3-acre fishery. I think I suspect what's happened there, Alan, is there's been a few questions submitted under the same one, so it's split up a little bit. But I think what Alan's saying is he's based at a small fishery in 2022. We had hundreds of cormorants visit and lost a significant number of fish. Obtained a license in October 2023, and after that, hardly any visits. 5, in fact, still worried about them coming back in force. How would that be viewed in applying for a license?
So as long as Alan kind of gets his returns in, and kind of yeah, goes through that process we've just gone through, it's good. Hopefully, this is an example of the license working by the sounds of it. But we appreciate that actually the ability to kind of still support some support your non-lethals by taking cormorants occasionally as those numbers come back. We recognise that's what the license is for. So yeah, we'd still be happy to issue a license. We might look at reducing the numbers as part of that, and that's something that we do with every single license that comes with us. But yeah, there'd certainly be no concern in as long as the evidence is there that Alan is kind of continuing with all the non-lethals and all of that. There's no reason we wouldn't issue a license based on that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. No, that's fantastic. Right, well, that's the last of the questions that I can see anyway. So if anybody does have anything burning, please get them in now. Otherwise, we'll start to wrap up. So as I mentioned previously, Matt and Rebecca's presentation will be recorded and made available to everybody. And obviously, I'm sure you guys can circulate it amongst your contacts as well. So everybody's got a bit of a resource there looking into the future. And also that Q&A, and obviously, yeah, we can follow up some of those other points that were raised throughout that as well, I'm sure. And I'm sure everyone else on the call has got Richard Bamforth or Jake Devoyle's details, who are our fishery management advisors. But if not, by all means, get in touch with me and I can send them to you. So I think that wraps it up. So just a thank you first of all to everybody who's come along tonight. Really appreciated everybody taking time to come and familiarise themselves with this. I think it's really important. Mark, who's been doing the notes in the background as well, because without these things, it doesn't happen. So thank you, Mark. And obviously, huge thanks to Matt and Rebecca for coming along tonight and sharing this with you. So yeah, I hope everybody found it useful. And we will hopefully see you soon. And one other final thing to mention, of course, we are continuing with our face-to-face regional forums. We've actually got one in Nottingham tomorrow night. Then we're across in Cambridgeshire, and there's actually 3 going on next week as well: Chippenham, Hemel Hempstead, and Preston. So if anybody's interested in coming along to those, we'd love to have you. All the details are on the website. And yeah, and just as we finish, of course, the survey will pop up. So obviously, thank you everyone for coming along, and we hope to see you all again soon.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thanks.
Bye bye.